Good morning. ENO Business Success Podcast. I believe this is number 5. Phil Guinois, Jack Deshane, and Micah Watkins. And guys, what are we going to talk about this morning? Last night was the Super Bowl. Should we talk about success, perseverance, and how does that all apply in our lives and in our businesses and networking? What do you think?
Yeah, sounds like a good plan. Achievement,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Achievement is the highlighted word to use there.
Yes. Did you guys watch the Super Bowl?
I did.
I did.
I didn't. I missed it. I was at a rehearsal. So what did you think?
I would say that one, on the perseverance side of things, I mean, the game itself was pretty lackluster, up to the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, it's amazing what happens, when time starts shrinking, right? And we're like, oh, we got to turn this up, right? Hey, the game's almost over. It's amazing to see what, when the pressure's put on, what people can pull out of that.
Yeah, it reminds me of last Saturday before the Super Bowl. It's the same thing.
Yeah, our 60-day
They're past
challenge.
halftime. They're moving to where there's 3 weeks left, and that's what you also see. Even when it was 90 days, the first month, a lot of waiting around and hesitation, avoidance, things like that. And then as the time keeps clicking, then they start getting more like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get this done.
Oh, absolutely. So even like I remember when I did the 60-day challenge, you're pushing, and you're up against the gun on that last 2-3 weeks, and you're like, then the realization really hits. You're like, oh man, if I want to achieve this, I'm going to make it all the way to the finish line. What do I have to do? And then that's when, again, the perseverance and the willingness, right, to say, hey, here's the goal, here's the end goal. What am I willing to do to get there?
Willingness is big.
Absolutely.
In success.
And Jack, when people get to that point, what chemical starts firing in their brain that actually has them dig in like that? So which one of those, 4 chemicals that we react to?
I mean, I would think that fear is coming in. So fear is going to have the fight or flight. It's going to have the adrenaline and the cortisone and all that pumping. Because the fear is you're not going to do it. You're not going to get your goals. For those guys last night, it was you're going to lose. You're going to lose the big game. You work so hard to get to that game, and you're going to lose it. So you see, and that's what I think the one time I looked when I was at rehearsal, it was 10-3 for a while. Then it was 16-16. It's like, okay. And then it seemed like in the fourth quarter, and I was only checking my phone, that things got intense. That they really got to that place where it's so real now. You only have, especially when you look at the clock, right? There's 5 minutes and 43 seconds left. It's like, that's got to be total adrenaline rush.
Well, it was actually kind of the same thing. I don't know if you guys caught any of the Phoenix Open, but it went into a playoff. And he was down by, I think, 2 or 3 strokes, but he was 2 holes behind the leader and then tied it up in regulation play. And then they played the last hole. I think they were on the second play of the overtime, sudden death playoff or whatever they call it in golf. And then he won. And it was pretty incredible right there at the end. It was kind of the exact same thing as what was going on in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah. Where it boils down to that, the last few seconds. And then when you look at football and you listen to the coaches and everything, a whole game can be determined by just a couple of plays. Just like if you would have just got that play, you would have done that play, it's a whole different outcome. It comes down to just a couple of minute things, just a couple percentage makes the difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. what you were saying with the golf thing, I get blown away when people dig in and they just muster up whatever it is that they've got to do. It's inspiring, right? I mean, you're like, holy smokes, how did that person do that when they got that much pressure on the on the shoulders? And that's where, in sports, I'm a huge sports junkie, right? You get that sink or swim kind of mentality, or this is where people rise and then they fall. They can either allow it to completely diminish them and take them over, and they're like, oh, and then they're deflated and defeated, or they can rise up, accept the challenge, and muster up whatever it is that they've got to do to make it happen. And it, for me, like as the observer, and it could be sports, or it could be watching, a business person growing their business and then hitting the marks, and then watching them grow and be successful. You're like, oh, sweet. Like, where it always has to come from within, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not going to come from external circumstances. Those will show up along the way. It's always internal. We got to dig in there and find it. And what is it for me, or what is it for you, or what is it for the business owner or the sports player, or whatever it is? It's in there. It's inside.
Well, that's a great thought, because this, we're in the first quarter of the year, and we're just talking about football, right? And the fourth quarter, kind of that was the part of the game where it really got exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that, for our listeners out there, if you take some of that and you map it over onto your business, how many times do we see people get into a networking organization for a quarter?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All the time. And they pop in. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm going to try something new here. Blah, 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 and they pop in. And then all of a sudden they're gone. Like, where did that person go? And
where did they go?
That's always a good question. I think a lot of times, they don't see in that first quarter, they don't see the success that they would like. They haven't built a community or connected with the community yet. And so just like, in the first quarter last night in the Super Bowl, they were just kind of figuring it all out, right? But they had to stay to the second quarter for things to start to move, right? And that's what happens in a lot of business networking, is people get involved, and you'll see them for 60 to 90 days. And then I think two things happen. Maybe they don't see the big picture, right? They don't see the end of the game. What's it going to be like in a year, at the end of this year, if I keep doing the work? And then the second thing is they get distracted by another shiny object.
Yes.
Whatever that might be.
Talk themselves out of it. Well, I think in football, I think it's important in football or business that you don't go too high or too low over what's going on. Like, you lose the game, you lose the game. You win the game, you win the game. You don't let it go too far out of whack. Those people end up quitting. They end up running to the next shiny object. I think what's more important is not whether you got that win or that loss. You keep your emotions level. It's, are you doing the things that you need to do every day that eventually is going to get you to where you're going? And that's the important part. Yet if we're going to be flung around by emotion. So that's where every good football team, when I hear the players, they'll, that's a big game. You lost that game. You must be devastated. They're like, no, we lost that game. The other team played better today. I'm fine. Tomorrow I'm going to do the things that I got to do for the next one, because it's coming up right over there, instead of getting bogged down. So and then on the other hand, they don't go too high when the win happens, especially like a blowout. Like, oh, we blew them out, and you get all weird and emotional. That can also distract you from, hey, tomorrow, back to the grind. You got this over here coming up next Sunday. So don't celebrate it in the locker room. Yeehaw. done. Back to work, get on it. Business owners would fare better if they understood that. You know, especially when they're losing deals or you lose a deal and they get so emotional. And I work with them. They're like, they get so upset and they make so much up about it. I gave all this time and I did this and I did that and they wasted my time and I didn't get the deal. Well, isn't that all part of the deals? That I do have to give my time and I do have to do those things, and some are going to pan out and some are not going to pan out. Yet I watch people get so emotional about it, they don't last.
Yeah.
They don't last. They end up back at a job working for trading time for money and all that good stuff.
Well, if we're talking about achievement, right? You know, in the business world, you know, it's one step at a time, right? How many different business books are out there talking about, the consistency of, you know, hey, 1%, increase your ability 1% each day. You can, and then over a course of a year, you're going to improve yourself over 37%. You can apply that to life. You can apply that to business. You can apply that to whatever that we're talking about that you want to achieve, right? I think the same thing goes for sports, right? Jack, you just mentioned it. It's like those players, they go in there and it's work, right? We're going in there. Hey, we lost that game. What are we going to have to do to tweak this, tweak that, and go back to the drawing board and then work on that? And it doesn't all happen at once. It's a slow tick up each time. Hey, today I'm going to be 1% better than what I was yesterday.
That's magic.
That's where achievement occurs. Right?
Yeah, like the likes, the one player in the likes, which turned out to be lights.
Right.
Just lights. There is a book of a guy that, I guess, overweight, unhealthy. His whole goal every day was just the next street light. He ended up running marathons or something. So it's just like every day he only went to the next light and then went home. Eventually, you're a mile away. You're 2 miles away. And he was running, like just to the next light, to the next light. I think that's a definite formula for success when you can take it and break it down like that. Sort of like we've had to do with ENO. It is a step at a time. It's just boom, it's going to blow up. We keep looking at what's the next step, what's the next move, what do we got to do next, and just take the next move.
And I think, you know, one of the things too is we attempt to really be good at the basics when it comes to growing the business and to networking and teaching and modeling the culture with our members. We stay right at the basics. We don't get fancy on anything, right? It's the basics that, you know, we have to do. And I think that we've seen that this year or last year in 2023 coming through into 2024 is the engagement is now higher with our members than it had been, you know, coming out of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, there's obvious reasons for that as well. And then 2022 and even the beginning part of 2023, this last half of 2023 and into 2024, that in the game, you know, at the practice, showing up all the time is a lot different today than it was 9 months ago, 10 months ago with our members.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a testament to the environment and culture that, you know, we are looking to create, right, and achieve, right? Hey, we need to. Here's where people are going to be successful. We need to create this environment so that they can feel comfortable in doing it that way. And awesome. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it took a little bit of time. However, now you look at it and you're like, holy smokes. You know, it's a different energy. It's a different vibe. It's a different atmosphere and completely different environment than what it was a year ago at this time.
Oh, big time. Well, there's reasons for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a part of it is just the empowerment training that has become a part of the membership as opposed to just, well, it's there if you'd like it. because people would come in and do it, and then they would have the impact. They would have the shift, yet it was just one out of, 40 in the room. It's one, and that's not going on now.
Yeah.
We're walking into rooms, and it's like over half the room has done some type of empowerment training or went through level 1 or 2 or now even into the challenge, and then you just see those people. That's why I've always noticed it, and Tony Robbins talks about it way back when I was listening to him. When you hang out with people that are into growth, and they're like he was doing, going to hundreds of seminars, some of them he said sucked, yet he always knew no matter what, I'm going to get at least one thing. That's that 1%. I'm just going to get one little thing that I can apply and tweak the 1% to push me 1% further. And that's what's happening in ENO now, is the members are not only getting it when they come into those levels, when they go into their mastermind group. So we just got done with what Napoleon Hill. Did we finish the whole thing?
We finished the whole thing. 13
Principles of success. And then we're moving into Wayne Dyer. Is that
Yes.
Wayne Dyer, Power of Intention. And so they're starting once a week. They're coming in and they're just getting juiced. There's just empowerment right away. And then they go into something outrageous. And that's where I think all the energy and the culture and everything's coming from. That's starting to become very noticeable when you walk into the room and they're in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it's even showing up in, the regular networking lunches that we do twice a month. The energy, even guests will walk in and say, there is something different here. There is something powerful going on here. And I think, the other thing that you mentioned, that one little thing. So going back to those people that network for maybe, that first quarter,
And then
they kind of disappear. And Mike, I think this is something that you've always been good at in the last 4+ years that I've known you and watched you network. You don't walk in looking for 5 or 10 connections in a networking meeting. You walk in and like, who's the 1 or 2 people that I can connect with out of this going forward? And I think that's served you very well, hasn't it not?
Well, you're able to take it one bite at a time, right? I mean, let's be honest. Time, right? We only have X amount of hours in the day. And, if you're sleeping 8 hours, right? And then you're doing your job and this and that, or you're connecting with your family for X amount of hours. Like somewhere in there, you got to figure out, okay, like what am I doing with this? Am I sitting in front of the TV drinking beers all night long, or am I doing stuff that I want to do, right? And so it comes down to intention, right? And I know that for myself, like when I was in that arena, coming in and networking with people, it was more effective to make the connections that were probably going to be better connections anyways. Hey, like I think there's synergy. I can work with this person, or we can collaborate, or whatever it may be. And then you can find that time to really dive in and connect with them and build that relationship, with each other. And then, like I always say, continue the conversation.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, the other piece to that is there is a pitfall if I am trying to connect with so many people. I come to a networking event, and we've all seen this. We've probably all done this. We walk out with 20 or 30 business cards, right? And we haven't connected with any of those people, or very little. So then I'm doing a coffee meeting with Micah, and I'm not totally present. Why? Because I'm thinking about all the other people that I still need to talk to, right? Whereas if I'm focused on just, who can I meet, who's the 1 or 2 people that I can meet at a networking event, or who is it that's here that I need to, I've already met them, but I need to up the relationship a little bit and dive a little bit deeper with them. I'm not not scattered. I'm not thinking about all this other stuff. I'm just thinking about just one at a time or two at a time, right? And I can focus down on those people, and it probably shows up for them as well when you are focused.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, they feel it. I know I do when people are focused on me. I can sit there, oh, man, they're genuinely interested in what it is that I'm saying or doing or whatever, right? You can feel it. And vice versa. You sit there and listen to somebody and they're like, well, oh, man, they're actually listening.
Yeah, actually listening. So what would that be? Actually listening. What would that be?
Hearing the words that they're saying and interpreting that into, looking at their body language and addressing how that goes in towards their feelings about the topic that they're talking about, and really just putting all that attention on them to fully absorb whatever you can so that you can relate and understand what they're saying.
So listening to them. This is the biggest distraction is the mind. There is no bigger distraction, because really, if I'm listening to somebody talk, and I don't know how many times I've done it or you guys have done it, somebody's talking and your brain's like, ooh, you got a gem sitting right here. If this guy would just shut up, you could share this gem. At that point, you're not actually listening to this person any longer. You're more concerned about what you want to share, what you want to say. I think the mind becomes the biggest distraction, even maybe. I said maybe bigger than the cell phone. But yes, bigger distraction. And then, of course, the inability to just listen to somebody without the need to agree or disagree. That's a big one. And whether you say anything or not, the head nods. So someone's talking to you, the head's doing the yes nod. You're just basically saying you're right, I'm right. You're doing the head no nod. You're saying you're wrong, I'm right, or there's the other way, and now I'm just going to listen. And I don't do anything with it. Did it yesterday. There was some talk that came up, and the person needed to rant and rave about some political situation or who they hate and what this and that was the whole thing. So you just let them say what they need to say. There was nothing going on in the head to go, and now that isn't always the way it is, but for that one, it was that. You just need to do that, go ahead and do it, and otherwise I got to get into the whole game of, no, that's bullshit, and that's not right, and then we go into the right and wrong of all things, when in reality for him, it is right. It is his truth. It is. It's almost like whatever we believe becomes truth. Tony Robbins, I just saw that. Oh, who sent it? Somebody sent it from the team. I remember that from his personal power thing where he has you close your eye, look around the room, look at everything that's brown, and then you close your eyes and he goes, okay, what's red in the room? And you have no idea. What I thought was fascinating was when he caught him on so when you were looking at the brown, did you
see some beige?
Yeah, was that beige? Did you take that as brown too? Just to reinforce the beliefs. That was the powerful part. Mm-hmm. Whatever you believe, the evidence is going to show up. This is why arguing becomes ridiculous almost. That's what I meant. I could argue with the guy. There's that opinion. There's a couple of other opinions. We could get into an argument about it. Yet what are you arguing for? Whatever he believes is going to be his truth. How he looks at the world, perceives it, and whatever I do is mine. At this point in the game, it's probably more important to just deal with yours, your garden, what you're building, what you're looking at, what you're doing, instead of letting the mind control it and need to argue about it or become distracted. Like the cell phone, I think there's people that are it's like do you know anybody who they're not able to watch TV any longer without the phone? Are you familiar with any of these people? Because I know a few. So that means they're not able to just watch TV. They've got to have the phone going too, which is pretty cool because that's, multitasking or whatever. But they are able to do the phone and the TV at the same time. So you guys don't do it, right?
I'll pick it up and, check a few things here and there. However, I'm not constantly on the phone with the TV. Now, if I had one of those wacky eyes, that one way, one direction, and one with the other, that might work.
Do that. Oh, I could. Do you do it at all?
So again, I would say, hey, great commercial breaks. Sure, you pick up the phone and you're like, especially last night during the Super Bowl, right? I've got banter going on with family members who are huge KC fans. So I'm over here simply stirring the pot, right? Just, hey, I'm going for it. Well, that night, I used to deliver pizzas to the McCaffreys when I was in my early 20s.
Okay.
And they were always great tippers. So I was rooting for the Niners, right? And then all my family in Kansas, they're all Chiefs fans. So I'm over here stirring the pot with some text messages and all that stuff. And commercial break, sure. Right. I don't know that I'd be able to actually pay attention to the TV and my phone at the same time. Now, no, you're either or. You're not really engaged with both. You're either on the phone or you're engaged with the TV.
Don't tell them that. They'll come at you like an alcoholic who's you're not getting the drink for. It's like the Tool concert I went to. There was all these warnings everywhere. The band was like, "Don't put your frickin' phone away. You're here to see a show," and their show happens to be extremely visual. Like, that was the most visual concert I've ever seen in my entire life. The screen was probably 100 feet high by 120 feet wide, constantly showing outrageously massive images while they're performing. So they didn't want you to have the phone on because I would say at least 50% of the show is the visual. The other 50% is the music. Well, if everyone's phone's on, you're not going to see the visual as well. They get the lights. Yet when they were saying not to do it and the warnings were going on, there was a guy like, the voice over the loudspeaker, a warning. It's like, I was wondering in the arena who was actually getting angry, like who's getting pissed about. I saw some stuff on Facebook, people getting pissed, and I was like, I bet you it's the addicted phone people. Like, the ones that are like, well, there's no way I could do that this will be 2 hours and 15 minutes with no phone, which I understand. At the level 2, I left my phone there Friday night, and I did go through some withdrawals. There was some points of that evening when I got home where I shook a little, or you reach for it. It's not there. Go over to Melinda. Can I get a hit of your phone?
None of my stuff's on your phone.
Can I just get on the internet for a second?
Wait a second. This algorithm's all wrong. This isn't what I want to be looking at.
I know. What are you looking at on here? No, I think it's fabulous. And no, they're not watching the phone and the TV at the same time. They're not going to be able to comprehend both things. No. Yet I've already attempted to tell someone that does not go good.
Well, the multitasking thing. Here's what I always bring up with people. Oh no, I can multitask all the time. I'm like, okay, great. Count from 1 to 10. Jack, go ahead.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so you can do that, right? 5, all right, yeah. Now start the alphabet. Go A,
B, C, D.
Awesome, perfect. So now what I want you to do is say 1 and then followed by A, and then I want you to say 2, then I want you to say B, and then do that through the whole alphabet. Go ahead.
A1, B2, C3, D4, E5, F6, G7.
See, now all of a sudden they're like,
oh no, the brain's starting to go, wait a second.
Wait. Hold on. I got to get caught up. Where am I at? And so it can start to look like we're multitasking, right? Because, the first couple of steps, yeah, we can do something, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wait a second, where am I at? Right. So we're not really able to fully multitask. And I share that example with people all the time. And they're like, oh, yeah, I'm a multitasker, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, do that. And they're like, oh.
I forgot who it was. Elon Musk, one of those big guys, said, I would rather have somebody who just focuses on one thing and does it at excellence than somebody who can multitask and do things half-assed.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing with the multitasking is we can only multitask to what muscle and brain memory we have in that area, right?
Yeah.
So like when you got to 6, Jack, you're like, okay.
Well, it followed F. I was like, what?
Exactly.
G,
So the simplicity of it we can do. Once it gets beyond simplistic, multitasking doesn't work. And here's an interesting thing, and we've seen this in networking, right? How many times do we see people on their phone in a networking environment, especially networking lunch, where it's a structured lunch? And, as we were talking and you guys were talking about that, what kind of came to me is I don't see it as much in ENO as I used to see it in ENO.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, are you even engaged in listening to what somebody's saying if you're staring at your phone and answering text messages? And no, you're not. You're not in. I'm listening to both. Sure. You're just lying to yourself and everyone else in the room because they all know it too.
Well, there's no way they're on their phone and hearing exactly what somebody's saying. They may catch a word or two, and as much as it can hurt, I guess, some people's feelings or whatnot. Yeah, there was a period of time because the main thing about focus is that's a big part of our process of creating. As creators, focus becomes important because whatever you focus on is going to expand. So even if we claim not to be a multitasker, somehow that brain is attempting to do this anyway. So there was a period of time in my life for about 5 years where I'm in no relationship and my son isn't around. So I'm waking up with me like, dude, what do you want to do today? And I'm good. I've done all the self-development. I don't feel alone. I don't feel lonely. I like myself. Wake up. What are we going to do? Focus. Boom. Creation was coming to the extreme that people, my brothers, people like that were actually going, it's like you're a genie or something. You just claim this is going to happen and then boom, it just happens. You just draw this to you. Then as you get into the relationships and those different things, they're going to take focus. So all of a sudden it's like, well, you could still create. It's not instantaneous and it's not coming in like that because all your focus went from, okay, I got to get this done. What's going on over here? Oh, no, I got to deal with this and this. Oh, that's focus. That's attention. Okay, I got that done. Oh, no, what's he doing over here? All right, now I got to deal with this and over here. And now somebody's upset over here and all that stuff. And as I have to spread that focus out, well, then what I woke up with intention-wise starts to get interrupted throughout the day. And everything I place the focus on also is going to cause expansion.
Yeah, so as you were talking about that, I was thinking about the Hemisync series that we've all listened to. And it's either the third or the fourth one where they go into the sleep one.
Yeah.
And you learn how to count from 1 to 20 and go to sleep. Mm-hmm. And what I've noticed when I do that, and I try to do that most every night, I get hijacked somewhere along the line, right? I'm like, oh, I totally forgot. Where was I at? What number was I on? And I'm off somewhere else thinking about something, right? And that'll happen literally, probably 2 to maybe 4 times before I get to 20.
Yes.
And I usually do 2 breaths per number. So I'll, do number 1 and I'll take a breath and I'll do another breath and then I'll do my number 2. And so, it's not that long from 1 to 20 and I get hijacked multiple times. Yeah. And it's like, wow, where did a simple task of counting from 1 to 20, laying there before you go to sleep in this Hemisync process, and I get hijacked.
Yeah.
Like, wow, how easy.
So it's amazing that we're talking about this right now because as I was driving this morning, you guys know I've got an hour-long commute to get down here to the studio, and so I was like, all right, hey, I need a new book. So what book did I pick? The Untethered Soul.
Oh, yeah.
We were just talking about it this weekend, and I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to pop that in. And then, of course, the first couple of chapters are all talking about the neurotic roommate that we've got, right? And I'm not talking about an actual roommate. I'm talking about that voice in our head. And then we're like, holy smokes, when you really break it down, it is. It's like a neurotic wacko of a roommate that if we were to put that person on the couch with us, be like, dude, like, get away from me.
Out.
Like, what are you doing over here? Just constantly asking questions and making
judging, and criticizing.
There's just like, what is going on with this person?
Go get your own damn beer. That's what we.
I think the Hemisync was powerful on that. So many times I went through it, and I'm like, I got lost. He's gone. Everything's gone. I'm somewhere else. Then I'd come back in. I'd be like, what happened in there? And, Melinda and I would do them together. And a lot of times we'd come out of it and she'd have to ask, what, I got lost. I went somewhere else. What was going on? I go, you don't remember? He's asking you to visualize this or that. No, I didn't. And wasn't asleep. Like, no, I wasn't asleep. I was still here, yet I wasn't here. It just gets insane. That book, though, that roommate thing was one of the most brilliant things I ever heard.
Yeah.
Because you would evict the person. You'd be like, get out of here. Now, I think that's what the work has a lot of power in, is it changes the roommate. Because I don't deal with that a lot. I don't sit. For one, I don't. It doesn't beat me up at all, and I don't sit around criticizing people a lot. I mean, it'll do it. I'll say, what the hell's wrong with this person? Whatever. Yet I don't go through a lot of that. Yet before, it was awful. Like I tell you, like when I was jealous, that's the jealous roommate would say, where's she going? She's going to go out with the girls Friday night. Oh, really? And you think she's just going to, you know what they do, right? Well, no, what? They're going to have dinner and drink. Yeah, they're going to have drinks. You know what happens when they get drunk? They want to dance. So now there's going to be these single guys around trying to dance with them. And you know how they dance? Yeah, they're going to ride the leg. And you're just like, shut up, man. Just leave me alone. I just want to watch TV and be a good boyfriend. And they're like, ooh, I don't know about all this. And like that dialogue going on, you would boot them. You'd be like, get out. I just want to be happy. Get the hell out of here. But yeah, that was that's in the beginning of the book, right?
Yeah, it was literally, I think I first four.
So you're listening audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I listen at like almost 2x speed. So I think I got through the first 3 chapters.
Wait. What is 2x speed? He sounds like a little chipmunk.
Yeah, so here's the other thing. I found that the faster, you up the top.
How are you upping it?
There's options. You can increase the speed. Well, however, you really.
So really, we're just going to talk like this for the rest of the episode here tonight.
That's kind of what it sounds like. However, it's the challenge, right? To keep the focus on what they're saying, to really catch all the words that are being said. Like when you put up the speed there, well, now you really have to focus and pay attention to what they're saying and hold that. And then really, driving is a secondary,
Well, yeah, we don't pay attention to that.
It's all, we're subconscious is driving us, we're, you know what to do.
So do you ever listen and then you're like, whoa, I just missed all that? Like, have you ever read and done that? Like a whole page, you're like, whoa, I don't remember anything I just read.
I've had that happen. There's been a couple of times where it's like, oh, hold on a second, because I get hijacked, right? All of a sudden, some guy cuts me off, and then you're like, oh, hey, I got to put my focus over here. Wait, what did they just say? What were they talking about?
That's what I mean. The mind is the biggest hijacker.
Absolutely.
It actually comes in and causes more disturbance than anything else. I love reading a paragraph or a page, and I have no idea what I just read. And the whole time I'm thinking about something completely different, but I've actually turned the page. Like your eyes looked at it, your brain went somewhere completely different.
Well, and here's what's interesting, and you, Jack, talk about this a lot in the empowerment training, is it's all in there. Even if you didn't even remember what you just read or heard.
Oh, yeah. It's
all in there. And so back in, high school and shortly out of high school, I studied Aikido. And, I wasn't a great student in high school. I graduated with like a 2.3 GPA or somewhere in there. And it's just because I didn't apply myself. I was working 40 hours a week in the restaurant business, and I think I even had a couple of paper routes at the time. And I took a year off from high school to college, and it was only going to be 6 months. And my best friend's like, "You're not going to go to college." And then when it became between 6 months and a year, my dad even questioned whether I was going to go to college. And my dad was a professor at ASU. And then when I finally did go to college at Mesa Community, and I was studying police science with some business classes, one of the things that my sensei had taught us was a breathing exercise, and it's a form of meditation. And I literally did not study outside of the class in college. I would go into the class, and that was all I did. And my schedule worked out where in between almost all of my classes, I had a 30 to a 45-minute break typically, and I would go sit in one of the fields at Mesa Community, and I would do a breathing exercise, and I'd literally walk in, and whatever tests I was taking, got A's pretty much on everything. I had A's in college. And it was just allowing the mind to connect with it. And it wasn't even looking for the answer. It wasn't looking like, oh, I know that answer.
Right.
It was just getting into a state where it could come forward when it needed to come forward. So it was really an interesting time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that stuff is powerful. Powerful.
Well, it's amazing what the mind can achieve when it wants to, and not hijack us, and veer off and do this and that. When we can actually stay focused, it's amazing what we can actually achieve with that.
So we're coming up close to the end of this podcast. So it's a great point, Micah. This group of people that we have that have done level 1. They're just completed the level 2 breakthrough course that we have, and now they're in the 60-day challenge. And we just met over the weekend at the halfway point, kind of like halftime of a football game, right? And they kind of reassessed where they're at in their goals and where they need to be, and they all made a huge commitment for the next 3 weeks before we go away for the final completion weekend. And it'll be really interesting to see and to focus what those members are going to come out and what their next 3+ quarters of 2024 are going to be like.
Yeah.
Having had a full group of people go through this together inside of ENO.
Yeah.
What would you speculate, Jack? What kinds of things do you think we'll see and they'll experience?
I would say that there's going to be an understanding they probably have that they always could have achieved more than they thought they could, because this sort of has got that about it, where a lot of times, it's one of the things we talked about, a lot of times we fall into the rut of our life. Like, I don't know, I work in my business until 5 or 6 o'clock, and then I go home, and then she's there, and then we talk a little, and then we have some dinner, and then we watch some TV or play on the phones, and we just sort of get stuck in all that. And what they've done is they've taken themselves out of the rut. And when you pull yourself out of the rut, I mean, your spouse or even your children can only do so much, and you can only do so much for them. Really, synergy is so powerful. And when we go out, and what they're seeing is that synergy they're building with each other, because now they're not just at home with their spouse, and some of them don't even have a spouse. They're just sitting at home alone. And they're building, they're expanding all that. I would believe their confidence levels we don't even have to believe it. We already see it. They're already acknowledging it. Their level of confidence is going up. Their ability to be aware, to take charge of the mind when it wants to go running amok and all that, and actually change what's going on as opposed to being stuck in it or believing that it's real. All of that stuff is, their results should be quite a bit different, drastically actually different than if they never did anything, if they would have just stayed in the rut. And that's why we told them in January or before January, anyone who does this is going to be big, because you're going to do a level 2 inside that challenge, and that's just huge.
Well, and I don't know where I heard it, but I love it. I heard years ago, you know what a rut is? It's just a grave with the ends kicked out.
There you go.
Right? And we all do. We get into that rut. So I think what we're going to find is a couple things. They won't be wandering nomads.
Right.
In their business, in their life, and in their networking. They won't be wandering. And wandering leads to wondering, right? Like they're wandering and they're wondering, what the heck do I do? What's working? Why isn't that working, right? I think the other thing is, Jack, you said that they'll come to the realization that they could have been more successful at any point in time. Mm-hmm. And I think the other piece with that is they won't have any regrets or self-beat up about that, whereas before, I think human nature is I could have, and then we beat ourselves up because we didn't take advantage of that opportunity or the time or push harder. They know where they're at. The other thing is, if you look at that group of people from industry-wise, it is a wide variety of people as far as business categories and their expertises. And I think we're going to see a whole lot of cross-pollination, so to speak, of them working together and connecting and supporting each other in ways that normally would not be seen in networking. And I think it's going to be pretty awesome. Mike, do you have any finishing thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's the achievement of what they set out to accomplish, right, in that 60-day challenge that we've got those players in right now. And, talking to them and seeing what they're creating for themselves, holy smokes. You got some of those players in there that have made massive action. And they're, I've closed more deals, or I've talked to X amount more people than I would have when I was in my busy season, in whatever industry that was. And I'm like, well, that's massive. Like, so now, it just gives them a blueprint to, great, you just did this for 60 days. Now, how can you take that blueprint and apply it to the rest of your year? You're going to have the best year of your life. Right? Business-wise, probably even personal-wise. Now, all of a sudden, you are not going to be the same person that you were at the beginning of the year. When you come to the December 31st, you're going to look back and be like, holy smokes. And that's that 1%.
It's the 1%, and this is where the bailing out of, join a networking group and you're gone in 3 months or 4 months, or even doing self-development, you go in and you do something, whatever it is, Jan Canfield, well, whoever, you just go in and you do it and you just bail out. What these people have done, and the secret to all the work and going through all the levels, is it works liken one's life to a huge ocean liner. And let's say your ocean liner is going not in the direction you want it to. So can you just flip it like a jet ski? No, it's impossible. It's an ocean liner. It's going to slowly have to turn, and it's going to be done by a little trim tab. This little teeny piece of the boat, little teeny piece of a massive ocean liner is going to make this entire ship turn. That's what the work is. that work acts like a trim tab to take a person's life and make the turn that's so difficult because people want the fast turn. On a jet ski, you can flip fast, right? You can just boom, and you're just going in the other direction. But our life isn't a jet ski. It's an ocean liner. It's massive. And when we want to change and move our life into a different direction, this work, this awareness work, operates like the trim tab on an ocean liner. It's just a little, like 1%. It's just little teeny adjustments, little teeny ones as they slowly make that curve around. And now all of a sudden they're going in a completely different direction. And that's what they're going to.
And which do you think crashes more, a jet ski or an ocean liner? I bet you the jet ski crashes
or
a whole
falling off of it or whatever
Yeah.
you're doing. Because, so that's what, if someone understood that about their life. Like, if I've always been going this way and I need to go the other way, it's not going to happen overnight. The brain is too powerful. It's too programmed. It's too rigid. Yet if I can just get into something, an environment, a culture, or whatever, then I can slowly make the turns. And that's where I think people, we want the instant gratification. That's why they had the fat shirt that made you skinny. You see the shirt? It was great. The guy's like all balloon gut and all that, and then he just puts on a shirt. Well, the shirt pushes all the fat in. So now he just puts another shirt on over that thing, and he looks thin until he takes his date home, and then shirt comes off and kabloom. So, instant gratification. Well, you don't have to do anything. Just buy this shirt. Now you look good. But that's not the formula for success.
Yeah.
The formula for success. So we have a lot of people who come into ENO. They're just starting a business. They're a new entrepreneur. Well, that's a new life, right? You're
Absolutely.
cooking. You know what to do as a cook. You're trading time for money, probably tons of time for some money, right?
Tons of time for a very little
bit amount of
right?
money. Yeah, you know what to do. It's simple.
Yeah.
I give the hours, and then they give me the check. Mm-hmm. And then you became an entrepreneur. Now I have to go make my own check. Nobody's handing me a check. So there was going to have to be that whole shift of his entire life to go the other way to do that.
Yep.
And he, all he did was stay the course and do that.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other thing, stay in the course, right? And I equate it to this. And then it's like everyone's walking around. We still have those umbilical cords, right? We just need some place to plug into, an environment that we can actually be successful and have success. And everyone's walking around looking for it. There's no one walking around really being like, man, I want my life to be garbage and complete misery. And no one's walking around with that, right? Everyone wants some happiness and some success and,
connectedness
and being connected with others, right? So everyone's walking around with this umbilical cord, and they're looking for that environment to plug into. Mm-hmm. And so I plugged into the work, right? I plugged into the work. It's now you got your hands on the trim tab, and you're starting to dial it in and get the direction that you want to go, right? It also could be plugging into an environment where that you're going to have success there because of the people that are there, the synergy that's there, the support, right? So, it's massive. And I find it funny that here we are, we're all walking around with these umbilical cords looking to plug in, and they cut it from us, right? When we first come into the world. That's how we started. We were connected.
Oh, yeah.
Right? With an umbilical cord, and then when we come out of here, we're looking to reconnect it.
Well, and then mine didn't even dissolve, but that's a story for a whole nother time, right? So, hey, we're at the end of this podcast. So for our listeners out there, I think if you want to experience some of the difference in networking, come to an ENO event. You can check it out on our website, enosuccess.com, upcoming events. And visit one of our lunches, visit one of our mixers, or if you want to see some really powerful and innovative networking, come to one of our mastermind groups. We've got mastermind groups growing all over the Phoenix area. And so those will be an area that when you come, you will see something very innovative and unique in the world of business networking. So, guys, thank you for a great podcast, and we will be back here in a week.
We'll see you in a week. Have a great week.